I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story. You know, I've always loved libraries. They are magical places to me. I just love their books and their shelves and their stories. When I was growing up, my school libraries were, I gotta say, pretty lame. Students these days have it much better. But now some books are disappearing from the shelves. It's part of the ongoing culture wars, and that makes it our big story. Several of you got in touch with us following our story on the West Linn-Wilsonville School Board decision to keep 8 books that a group of parents challenged there. You told us, hey, this is happening in Canby too. Can you check it out? And that brings us to the latest book battleground, Canby High School. Students protested today during their lunch break. They are not happy that 3 dozen books were actually pulled from their school library. Now, whether they can get those books and much more from the internet, that's a topic for another day. But for now, the question is, who gets to decide what books stay and what books go? And should they have been removed before they were reviewed? Investigative reporter Evan Watson has our story.
Students at Canby High School are protesting the removal of 37 books from school libraries.
The whole point of education is to learn and grow through knowledge. And I'm worried that we're not going to get that chance if we just sit back and let it happen.
Holding signs that say educate, not indoctrinate, and book banning is fear and ignorance on their lunch break.
We are a small town. It's something that's happening here. It's not only just affecting us, but if we can make a statement and make a stand against this and try and combat it, then that's really important to me.
The school district decided to remove the books instead of leaving them on the shelves until a committee finishes a review. That has frustrated parents like Mary Massangila.
It's not okay to just pull books out of our school libraries without going through the review process that's been put in place and without talking with others that can be impacted by those choices.
Former Canby High School principal Jim Gadberry said the decision could be limiting, and the district needs to think about what's best for all kids.
If one of those 34 books passes muster and it's been pulled, and I'm a parent out here in Canby and I wanted my son or daughter to read it, have you taken away my right to that privilege of a public education from A to Z?
2 community members filed to have the books removed due to sexual content, violence, and other subjects. Some school board members have shared concerns about explicit content in books over the last few months. A Canby School District spokeswoman declined our request for an interview. In a statement, she said, because of the volume of requests, Canby will hold the books out of circulation until they can be reviewed this summer. The Canby School District has a policy for how book protests can be resolved, but that policy doesn't say the district should remove the books whenever a complaint is filed. When asked why the district pulled the books, the spokeswoman said, there is room in the procedure for discretion. The list of removed books includes a popular fantasy series, books about sexual assault and LGBTQ lifestyles, and award-winning novels that have been on the shelves for decades.
The things that these books talk about are really important for high schoolers to understand. It's about life experiences that are really hard for some people, and taking these books off the shelves removes the idea of this experience, and it leaves these people to suffer in silence about things that, they're really not alone in.
We went to the Canby Public Library to see if these books are available elsewhere. Every book on the list was either unavailable or on hold, with multiple requests to read it, except for one, Toni Morrison's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, Beloved.
When the books aren't in the school that are representative of the school population, we're not banning our books to protect students, we're removing books to discriminate against them.
Evan joins me now, and I know you have some breaking new information on this.
I just got some communication from the Canby School District, and the district told me that here are the copies of the 37 book removal requests that they had, and that 2 community members filed these, not school board members. I heard some discussion around school board members are the ones who could have filed these. It's actually 2 community members in this case, even though this has been a topic of discussion at board meetings over the past few months.
And it's been a topic of discussion in West Linn. How's this different from West Linn's issue?
In West Linn's case, they kept the books on the shelves until they reviewed them. There were 9 books in that case, and then they ended up keeping all of those books in the schools, although had some stay in the high schools and relegated them just to that subsection there. Now, in this case, they took all the books away pending review, which could come this summer or whenever they get to it. So it's a longer process for one, and 2, the act of just taking the books away pending review is a little bit different than what West Linn did.
Yeah, interesting. All right, and the battles continue.
There it is.
Thank you, Evan Watson. Great stuff as always.
Thanks.
Now, let's talk about housing and the homeless crisis. Lawmakers in Salem marked a big milestone this week. The Senate passed that aggressive $200 million package to address the crisis statewide. Now it heads to Governor Kotek's desk, where she is expected to sign it into law. After all, she said it was a priority for the session for her. What happens next, and perhaps more importantly, will there be any accountability for this massive amount of taxpayer dollars? Blair Best explains.
The lawmakers behind these bills are calling this an unprecedented early victory around the homeless and housing crisis, the state's most pressing issues and ones that have been neglected here in Salem for decades. Yet now we're seeing overwhelming bipartisan support to address them. The setting of Wednesday's roundtable at the Capitol was casual compared to the significance of the meeting, the passage of two bills totaling $200 million to address the emergency on our streets.
And I think it was important that we take this step early on in the session.
It's a noteworthy timeline that makes some of the resources in this investment package available in the coming months, as opposed to later this year.
If we had waited and followed the normal process through the legislative session and signed this bill at the end of the session rather than relatively close to the beginning of session, it would not have taken effect until August.
One of the bills funds the governor's $130 million homelessness state of emergency that she declared on her first day in office. That includes increasing shelter capacity and getting people off the streets in areas of the state where the rates of unsheltered homelessness are the highest. The other bill is aimed at speeding up housing production and includes dedicating $26 million to the counties not included in that state of emergency.
Homelessness is not an urban problem, it's an Oregon problem, and we need to address it on a statewide basis.
If we fail in this moment, we fail all of Oregonian. I don't want to fail because my children want to live and work in an area in which they choose, not because that's where they have to, one thing they can afford.
Now, this all comes as Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler is seeking more funding for his 6 temporary alternative camping sites, the first of which is opening this summer, although the money in this package goes to counties, not cities. The mayor's spokesperson tells KGW that they plan to ask for some of this money, if eligible, to go toward the sanctioned campsites. Now, accountability is also built into this package, the legislature requiring quarterly check-ins with the groups responsible for spending this money.
How many housing units were created? How many people were housed? Because we invest this kind of money, we want to make sure that we're accomplishing important goals with it.
Governor Tina Kotek commends the legislature for passing the package, saying she's deeply grateful they answered one of the state's most pressing calls for help. Yet the Republicans in the room argue there needs to be robust housing bills to follow and attention to Measure 110.
So we have to take these incremental steps to fix that, and it's going to take all the brain power in this room and then some to figure out how we have to work that together, get that done.
This is just the latest step to address this crisis at the state level, and lawmakers hope this will act as framework for what else they plan to do to address homelessness and housing this legislative session. In Salem, Blair Best, KGW News.
Thanks, Blair. Now, here's my opinion on this. First off, congratulations to Governor Kotek and the legislature for getting these bills through the system so quickly. There have been other bills that were fast-tracked during past legislative sessions, but listen, this is no small feat. To get bills that big through, there's all kinds of things that can go wrong. They have to go through all the hearings and work sessions and possible objections and still reach the governor's desk now in late March. And yes, the Democrats control the House and the Senate and the governor's office, but that does not mean that they all agree on everything. Something like this could easily go off the rails if everyone is not focused on making it happen. So congratulations. It is impressive. At the same time, I'm concerned that the state leaders continue to focus and push for housing as a solution to the homeless crisis. I know. It sounds obvious. People outside need shelter, give it to them, and then we'll solve this problem. But listen, it's not that easy. Many of the people on the streets, probably most, have significant drug problems or mental illness or both. That's what really needs to be addressed. Oregon needs a lot more mental health treatment and drug treatment and places to put people as they're healing. Simply building someone a home or an apartment is not going to do it. I do hope this tax money does what the supporters want it to, but I'm also watching to see what's done for the root of the problem, mental health and addiction. That's the place I think our tax money will be most effectively used. That's my opinion. You don't have to agree with me, although frankly I think you should. But you do have to communicate. Send me an email. The address is thestory@kgw.com, or call and leave a voicemail 503-226-5090. I want to know what you think about this, and I look forward to hearing from you. Still to come on The Story. Oregon passed a law way back in 1951 that said we should not be pumping our own gas. An attendant should do it for us. Well, bills to change that have been introduced in recent years only to fail. But is this the year it really happens? Removing Oregon from the short list of just 2 states where drivers are not supposed to touch the pumps? The bill is through the House, and now it's with the Senate. And 2 state senators, one from each party, are optimistic that it will make it through this time around. We'll explain and hear from them when The Story returns. Do you have a Roku or Amazon Fire? Good for you if you do. You can watch today's show plus previous shows and segments anytime on our streaming service. Go to your Roku or Fire homepage and add KGW Plus to your home screen. And then let us know what you think. There are only 2 states in these United States where an attendant is supposed to pump your gas instead of you. Your job's to stay in the car. The states are on opposite coasts, New Jersey and right here in Oregon, of course. It's been that way in the Beaver State since 1951, all in the name of safety. The state was worried about all sorts of things, gas being a fire hazard, people slipping on the ground when it was raining, older people or people with disabilities having difficulty, or just the fact that gas fumes are a health hazard. But a bill that's coasting through Salem could very soon change that and leave Jersey all its lonesome in the gas pump service industry. We're talking about House Bill 2426. It has bipartisan support and already cleared a major hurdle by passing the House of Representatives on a 47-10 vote. Here's what it would do. And by the way, there is a difference between Oregon's urban and rural counties in this. In the state's 16 more populated counties, stations could designate up to half their pumps as self-serve. They would need to keep at least one gas attendant on site to pump gas for customers who don't want to do it themselves. In Oregon's 20 other lesser populated counties, no attendant is required, meaning the stations could go fully self-serve if they wanted to, but they're also able to keep attendants if they want to in order to keep the customers happy. The stations across the state would have to charge the same price for gas, whether you're pumping it yourself or having the attendant do it. And in case you're wondering, here's a quick list of what are considered the 20 rural counties where an attendant would not be required. They are Baker, Clatsop, Crook, Curry, Gillum, Grant, Harney, Hood River, Jefferson, Klamath, Lake, Malheur, Morrow, Sherman, Tillamook, Umatilla, Union, Wallowa, Wasco, and Wheeler. And that's how much we love you. We'll actually say the name of your county. The rest are considered, by the way, urban counties where an attendant would have to be present for at least half of the pumps. Now, as I said earlier, the bill made it through the House of Reps and had its first hearing in the reading, that is, in the Senate yesterday. Now it's waiting on a Senate committee referral. Once there'll be a public hearing and a work session before eventually going to the full Senate for a vote. Now, I should warn you, bills similar to this one have failed in the legislature at least twice before. So, what do you think? Does this one stand a better chance? It looks like the answer is probably yes. We checked in with two of the bill's chief sponsors in the Senate. One's a Democrat, one's a Republican. Incredible, don't you think? They both wanted to be interviewed together. How's that for bipartisan? And they think this is the year it's going to get through.
I feel very strongly that it's going to sail right through the Senate as well. This has been a tried and tested bill that has come before us before, had a lot of great discussion, and I believe the Oregonians have overwhelmingly have said over 60%, I believe, that are ready for some capacity of self-serve gas. So I think we're going to be able to respond to that.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I think the nice thing about the bill is what it does is it takes into account those different jurisdictions and the local feedback of the different considerations that you would have throughout the state, whether it be in a more rural part or a more metro-centric area. And it really does. Even within the Bonham household, I can tell you my mom, who really still wants the service, will be able to get it. And my brother, who wants to be able to pump his own gas, will be able to as well. So we're really accommodating everybody with this concept.
By the way, an interesting part of the bill is that it includes an emergency clause that says it would go into effect immediately if it makes it to the governor's desk and she signs it. And the senators told us that part is important because of a labor shortage that's an issue for drivers right now.
The reason that we are addressing this in an emergency situation is because we are seeing such an incredible workforce shortage across Oregon in these positions. So we do have to respond to that in a way that will get this moving along so that we can potentially save some of those companies, some of those stores from closing. We want to make sure that we continue with the service. So that's why we have to respond to that.
And not that we govern ourselves by polling, but there have been consistent polls taken over the last few years that show that 2/3 of Oregonians are ready for this. They're looking for this option. Those of us that drive diesel vehicles have been self-fueling for years. It calls out motorcycles being able to now self-fuel at all times. So, I do think this is something that most people want. I absolutely understand that there will be some people that will never come around to this. But because it's popular and again, because the relative emergent need that I think has kind of raised this to the forefront of people's minds with the employment shortages, I do think it's necessary, and is necessary sooner than later.
And the labor shortage is pretty in your face, especially in some parts of the metro area. People have waited in line for 15 minutes, maybe even a half hour, because there's just not enough attendants to come around and pump your gas. Some stations closed because they didn't have anyone to work the pumps. It's an issue that we've been hearing about firsthand, and it's also been delivered to lawmakers during testimony in Salem.
The gas stations in Oregon are already suffering from severe employee shortages. It's hard to find people who are willing to pump gas.
We're all competing for the limited number of labor that's out there.
So will the bill actually pass this year? We'll have to wait and see. Naturally, two of the chief sponsors we spoke with, they're very optimistic, but optimism does not guarantee results, although seems pretty likely here. Even if it does pass the Senate, Governor Kotek would have the final say. She has not made any comment about this lately that we're aware of, so we asked her press secretary yesterday for a comment regarding the bill, and we got the answer that journalists are used to. Quote, "The governor does not generally comment on pending legislation." End quote. Thanks. So we'll see. But I will admit it's a little refreshing to have politicians on different sides of the aisle working together, even if it's for something like pumping our own gas.
I really appreciate giving Oregonians opportunity to see Democrats and Republicans working together on issues. And I think this is one example of that, and out of many. And I just appreciate hearing all different perspectives, and that we see the issue and we come together and try to find a solution for that. So I've enjoyed this.
I think the bill really highlights that the rural-urban divide isn't always a negative thing, that sometimes it just means some extra consideration. I mean, the bill calls out 16 counties to do one thing and 20 counties to do another. And it's responsive to different parts of the state. I think, to Senator Solomon's point, that ability for us to come together and work together and take into consideration what the local needs are is so important. And so, sometimes divide is good, and we can cater a piece of legislation to accommodate the local need.
By the way, we'll be talking a lot more about that divide next week on The Story. That's when we'll share my reports from my listening tour of Eastern Oregon and why so many residents are fed up with lawmakers, feeling they're not being heard or cared about in Salem. That series begins Monday on The Story. But in the meantime, what do you think about this bill to allow us to self-serve at the gas pump? Are you for it or against it, and why? I'm for it, by the way. I'm tired of waiting. Also, let us know. Send us an email to thestory@kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. Coming up next on The Story, you'll never know what you'll uncover while going through boxes of memories from loved ones who've passed away. That's especially true for a Washington woman who found a bit of presidential ancestry in her late mother's belongings. And now she wants former President Barack Obama and his family to get these memories back. We'll explain when The Story returns.
Straight ahead at 6:30, heartbreaking news in the case of a missing Vancouver mother and daughter. Investigators say the bodies of both have been found. We'll have an update on the boyfriend who police are calling a person of interest who appeared in court today. Plus, thunderstorms rolling through our area. Matt has an update on what to look out for throughout the night. It's coming up at 6:30. Hope to see you then.
Now let's head north to Snohomish County, Washington, where a woman found a piece of presidential history in a box of old photos. Megan Dasher Watkins was going through some pictures that belonged to her late mother, and among them was a name that kept popping up. And she did some more digging about her mom's graduating class of 1960 at Mercer Island High School. Eric Wilkinson from our sister station in Seattle takes up the story after that.
You never know what you'll find.
Well, here's another yearbook.
When you start looking through a box of old photos.
Oh, there's Gene Anderson.
The Mercer High School class of 1960 had a few notable alumni, among them Stanley Ann Dunham.
That's the Obama mama.
Mother to former President Barack Obama.
It's kind of exciting to have a part of history.
Megan Dasher Watkins was going through some of her late mother's possessions when she discovered a bin of yearbooks, newspaper clippings, and photographs.
Here we go. She was part of the Mercer girls.
Megan's mom was friends with the former president's mom.
You have that, what is it, that 5 degrees of separation of Kevin Bacon? And I have, 2 degrees from Obama?
She says her mom told her Stanley stood out in her class, but was really just a normal teenager.
Just part of the girls, just like one of the gang. They would have sleepovers and go skiing and camp out.
Megan hopes to collect stories from other classmates and deliver them, along with the photos, to the Obamas, especially their children. Megan's kids got to know their late grandmother well. The Obama kids didn't. Their grandmother passed away in 1995, when Sasha Obama hadn't even been born.
They live in these pictures and these stories, and so in some ways it's kind of the next best thing. This one doesn't seem to have a table of contents.
In a way, the photos allow Megan to keep her mom's memory alive. She wants the Obamas to have every memory possible.
There she is. Looking through the pictures and relating to, the sleepovers and the campouts, and it really puts your parents in a new light. These memories kind of keep them alive a little bit.
In Stanwood, Eric Wilkinson, King 5 News.
What a cool discovery. Do you have any presidential memories hidden away in the attic of your home? Let us know, will you? We'd love to hear about it. Send us your emails or call and leave a voicemail. The address and number right there at the bottom of the screen. Keep it here. We're going to wrap things up right after this. A reminder, the KGW Great Food Drive still rolling on. You have been incredible. We've reached our goal of 1.2 million meals already, so we're raising the bar to 1.5 million. Last year, Oregon Food Bank distributed 78 million meals. You can help support food assistance programs by dropping off physical donations at any local Toyota dealers. And all this week, Pacific Foods will double your donation. Thanks for that. To see all the ways to donate, or if you yourself need assistance, visit kgw.com/food drive. We also want to thank Rivermark Community Credit Union, Pacific Office Automation, and Safeway for supporting this year's food drive. Well, that's the end of our show. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, the story, our story, well, that never ends. I'll see you tomorrow.